Welcome, Dr. Stephen Hobbs here from the International Mentoring Community, sharing with you the content of the video that you're about to watch. The title is about truth, trust, and transparency in the mentoring arrangement. Now, this truth, trust, and transparency are like three really important words that we associate with the mentoring arrangement. And without them, you can have an arrangement that sort of falls apart. With them, you have an extraordinary experience both for the mentor and the mentee. So Doug Lawrence and I, Doug being the co-founder of the International Mentoring Community, we have a conversation about these three words as it pertains to the mentoring arrangement so that you can get a deeper and richer appreciation for those words. So enjoy. Doug, yesterday I was doing some editing of some videos, and for some reason, I went back and looked at, how are some of the videos doing from a viewpoint of view on YouTube. And I came across one that had 4,000 views as compared to, some that are 20 and 10 and that. What's going on? And then all of a sudden I remembered that someone had reached out to me and said, can we include this video in a university course we do, because we kind of like the topic and what you did with it. And I went, sure. And I thought that it needed a little bit of an update, so that I thought we might shoot this video. I'll reach out to them and see if they want this newer one. And it's around the concept of truth, trust, and transparency because of whatever preposition we want to put in there, of the mentoring arrangement. So I'd like to explore that with you, truth, trust, and transparency in the mentoring arrangement, and see where we go with that. Okay?
Okay.
So I'll start off with the following. Truth. Truth is one of three values that I'm aware of, and those three values are truth, worth, and utility. And truth comes about through things like experimental, quasi-experimental research. Is there truth here? Does it pass the hypothesis, null hypothesis, the statistics kind of world, okay? And the truth, we speak about, is there our truth? Well, we only know it up to our skin, and we may have examples of where it seems to be playing out, and we've sort of done our own version of experimental, quasi-experimental research. So there is this notion of truth. And a lot of that truth for me pops out as, in the social media world, as no like. If I know someone or I know something and I like it, right? I know this person and I like what they put out, then I'm, in a sense, sharing my truth about that person. So let me stop there with that piece. What do you think about, or what's your thoughts about truth?
I'm actually going, I'm going to go a little step further, and looking at both truth, trust, and transparency. I see that in our definition of mentoring as a two-way trusted relationship, where both the mentor and the mentee are going to learn and grow personally and professionally. So I see those three words as pieces, elements of that definition.
So in other words, in our definition, both have to speak their truth when they come to the conversation, to the kind of conversation.
Right, and it's through that truth that trust is developed.
Trust. And the trust is that whether it's contractually, competence-wise, right, is that I can trust what's going on here. In other words, you're speaking your truth. I know my BS meter is not running high, right? And that I can trust that you're going to be present, right? You're going to fulfill your commitments. The contract we've agreed to, the agreement, right? Mm-hmm. Is there the competence that you have? you truly have it, you're not making it up kind of idea. There, that's the part of the trust part. Agree?
Yeah. And then the transparency piece is we have this trusted relationship, which is premised on no hidden agenda. So it's when I'm spending time with you in a mentor arrangement or relationship, I'm being as transparent as I possibly can in order to help support the truth and the trust part.
Well, if I go back to the social media world, it's when you comment, share, that's the transparency part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because you're willing to say, well, here's something I want to add to this. So obviously I'm trusting you where I'm adding it to. In other words, I know and like what it is. I trust you. Here's my comment. And if I go so far as to go, I'm going to share this with everyone that I know, not that someone might find my comment, but I'm actually going to put it into my line feed, right? Because is that not what happens to comment and share, is that the transparency is that what it is that you've learned, you actually put some of it into action, not to make it necessarily one-to-one, right? We're not saying that mentor says something to the mentee, do it. That's not what mentoring's about, right? That has a different connotation, different kind of educating approach. Anything to add to that part?
Just the one thought that came to mind was that we talk a lot about the setting of expectations. And I think expectations, when we're both truthful, are part of the being transparent in that arrangement.
So that expectations element, the promise keeping, the commitment, the courage to fulfill those commitments.
Yeah.
Well, there's another piece I'd like to add to this. From a truth, trust, and transparency point of view, the place between truth and transparency is trust. The time that you put to show trust is what I call the credibility pause. We talk about this notion of listening and sharing. Trust is always in all ways is built and grown through the pauses we take to listen and then share rather than just blurting out. There's credibility in this truth, trust, and transparency when we take that extra millisecond, seconds before we get into the next element of what's going on. And I wanted to add that element to it because when I wrote about this at one point in time, it's what really popped up and really popped out for people who were reading the article as well, is how important that credibility pause is in what we're doing. So when you think about truth, trust, and transparency, how do you create that? Or how do you manage that in a mentoring arrangement?
It comes back to, when I look at it from the three phases of a relationship, and the development of the truth or the trust, which truth is a component of, is what takes place during those first few meetings that you have with the mentee. And then the transparency part would then fall into what I call the learning and development aspect, which is sort of the heavy lifting of the mentoring relationship. And so when I look at those three pieces, truth, trust, and transparency, they fit into our definition of what is mentoring. But more importantly, I also take those and they're part of the action outcome statements that we use as far as a process or concept is concerned. And I put those into practice every day. Like for me, the very first thing that I want to be able to do when I'm spending time with somebody is for both of us to be truthful and for both of us to be able to develop a level of trust that we can move forward and deal with some of the challenges. And I'll be as transparent. I'll be as transparent as I possibly can in the relationship to um, to let you know when, say, for example, we're getting close to boundaries where we have boundaries that we need to be mindful of. I'll be transparent. I'll also be truthful, and I need you to trust that I'm going to do that for you. Is I'm going to say, well, just wait a minute. I think we're about to cross a line here, and do we want to really do that?
I think for me, it's at the very beginning, I talk about the ifs, IFS. And in some times I call it the imagined futures, IFS, the S. But it also stands for improve, focus, and strengthen. So when I'm in the very beginning of that conversation, I want to understand is, are we going to improve something, focus something, or strengthen something in our conversation? Now, that might differ every time we get together. I want to improve something, so that's, or I want to focus on something, or I want to strengthen something. Okay. And this notion of the truth aspect, it links a lot, not that the others don't, but it links a lot to focus. So what is it we want to focus on, right, in our conversation? And that gives me the truth that we're going at, because if I want to improve something, I really think about that as worth. And if I want to develop something that has usefulness, I think about I need to strengthen something, right? So this notion of truth and focus is just one of the ways that it helps me in the conversation, because then I go, okay, well, now we both got a little bit of a way forward here. Great. Okay. We know what path we're going to take, what kind of conversation we're going to have, and off we go. Now the trust is born, and we know, those quotes, right? It can take you a lifetime to create trust, but in a moment you can lose it. Kind of, it's probably the incorrect paraphrase, but I think we all understand that part of it. And again, that's, there's that gut level intuitive aspect when we know when the trust is being broken, right? Kind of idea. And from that transparency aspect, it's, if we're continuing to have conversation and we're seeing value in moving that forward, because it is improving, focusing, and strengthening, the transparency's there, and that it can actually be worked with, then I think we're achieving what we need to achieve as a mentor from a truth, trust, and transparency point of view, asking the same of the mentee.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Because once that arrangement moves forward, then the arrangement relationship storyline about who is it that's nurturing which element of that just becomes just this is what it's about. It's just sort of taken on its own life, and we're just doing what it is we do and benefiting, because as we both know, as a mentor, if you don't turn into a bit of a mentee during that time, you may be missing something here. And that's one of the great aspects of the reciprocity of mentoring, which if you look at other educating approaches, it's about one of the only ones where reciprocity actually happens.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's something there that we have to recognize about truth, trust, and transparency as well. So, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I hope that benefits those who are listening in. So thank you. Thanks for watching the video. We have an ask of you. Make sure you click the subscribe button and click the bell beside subscribe so you can receive more notifications of the videos that we're loading up. And like the video, and especially if you could comment your insights. We would enjoy learning from you. Take care.